Welcome to Season 2 of The Simpsons. I'm Al Jean.
I'm Mike Reiss.
This is Matt Groening.
And David Silverman here. Now this is the new and improved titled sequence, slightly improved, or basically slightly shortened.
What's new?
Well, there's new stuff coming up, and we knocked out about, I think, 12 or 15 seconds from it, because it was running kind of long, and we would sometimes have shows that we'd want to have a shorter title sequence, so we made this one, and we made a 45-second version and a 25-second to give a little flexibility depending on, how much material we were going to show or not show. Because I don't know if people know that we do more material than we show to give a little leeway for editing purposes. So this is a new section here with characters who were introduced up to the end of the last season, really. The first one, that is. And then right here is a bunch of people I just threw in for you to look at freeze frame.
Yeah, The Simpsons has been called the first VCR show. I mean, people were really just getting VCRs and just getting comfortable with them, so a joke or a bit like that flash pan of all our characters, there wouldn't have been any real point to having them before.
Bart, there will be no further interruptions during Martin's
Historical note on this show. The series had been moved from Sunday nights, where it started, to Thursday nights, and this was the first new episode that aired on Thursday night. It was up against The Cosby Show, which was the #1 show at the time, and there was a lot of publicity as, would Bart beat Bill, would Bill beat Bart?
It was a huge story, and I remember when they announced it at the Fox affiliates meeting, saying The Simpsons has been moved to Thursday at 8 o'clock, and everyone knew what that meant, and apparently there was a stunned silence, and then giant applause, and part of it, I think we all felt a little guilt, on top of it feeling a little suicidal. It was just sort of wrong, because The Cosby Show was not only a hit, it was a quality show. We always felt we were a good show, and that was a good show. It was hip, and, we wish we had taken on a piece of garbage instead of The Cosby Show.
Pirates with catches.
Well, I remember when because Jim and I were at the affiliates meeting, and we found out about it, that they were thinking about it the night before. We got a call from Barry Diller, and of course we were very, very much against it, and I didn't realize how much against it you could be until I saw Jim really make the argument that the show, which was in the top 10 when it was on Sunday night, was going to would be devastated by going up against Cosby. And they did announce it in the spring for the fall premiere, which was October 11th, 1990. And so all that summer, it was increasing fake news stories about this supposed rivalry between Bart Simpson and Bill Cosby. In fact, Cosby was on the cover of Entertainment Weekly wearing a Bart Simpson t-shirt. So he got into it too, and it was a big drag because I think it hurt both shows.
It certainly, I'll say, after this episode aired, I think when the initial ratings came in, we had several million more viewers than Bill Cosby, and then it was the headline of the New York Post the next day. Bart beats the Cos, a big picture of Bart's face on the cover. And then, of course, when the final ratings came in, Cos beat the Bart. He actually did much better, and I think continued to beat us week after week. I think maybe up until...
We didn't actually beat him in the final ratings until 1992 during the Winter Olympics.
But it was funny. I think it was a dumb move overall. But Fox never really established any kind of strong ratings on Thursday night. It did knock our show from being in the top 10 down into the 50s. I think we were ranked in the 50s week after week, and we held our own, and it did well enough. But there's no telling how huge the show would have been if they had just left us there where people knew where the show was.
It might have run 50 years.
And in fact, that's it. After I don't know how many years on Thursday night, they finally put us right back where we were Sunday at 8 o'clock, and the ratings shot up again.
What a glorious day!
Well, enough complaining.
This is what writers sit around and talk about.
Refrigerator and
Bill Cosby, he was one of the few people who would knock the show. I think he called him the stupidest thing on television once.
Well, he said a lot of
He did
stuff.
throw him
He
out of
also
work.
said some nice things too.
Okay.
Hey, you know what I'm noticing about this episode is look at that. Look at the lighting and the pose on that and the acting. This is great.
It was really fun. I mean, beginning of the second season, I think in the animation side, we started coming into our own, and all of us as directors got more experienced, and the artist had gotten used to drawing the characters, which was a big problem the first season, I think. And things were improving with the animators here and overseas, and we just got more specific about the performances and the acting. I had a lot of fun with this. Going back a little bit, Dan had that great reading of "Oh, What a Glorious Day," and I wanted that upshot because it's such a nice, powerful reading he did.
Yeah, one thing you often hear about the look of the show is, if you look at the first season, you can tell it's different from current shows. But I actually feel the look was well established by the second season, and you really can't tell shows from that season apart from shows we do right now.
That past shot with Bart floating looked as lovely and as sort of textural as anything we do on the show. It looked great.
Yeah, thanks.
That looks like a David Silverman drawing.
Well, it was. Thank you. It's sort of the influence, though, from things like Chuck Jones and Frizz Freeling and that sort of timing of like somebody not moving and then suddenly their eye moving or just their eyeball moving.
No reason to panic. Find an egghead, come up for some answers, and boom, I'm back on Easy Street. Oh, look at him. I bet he didn't study again. And now he's going to try to kiss up and get answers.
What great fun, I think, also with the way this episode was written. There's a lot of good development, kind of slowly developing that Bart's going to go in this direction and it's going to blow up in his face. And it's just great, a lot of good material to work with.
St. Louis. And where'd they land? Sunny Acapulco.
It's interesting, too. There was a subtext at this time where the Underachiever t-shirt was very popular. And, this was a show about whether Bart's going to do well in school and that he actually did buckle down to get the grade he gets at the end.
But the information pertaining to America's colonial period that you just received is erroneous.
I was we asked questions. And was this show done as a reaction against it? It was like, no, it just seemed like a good idea for an episode. It wasn't built as a reaction against anything.
We never do anything for a reason. It just kind of falls in that way. It was also the premiere because Bart was so popular. We wanted to premiere with a Bart show, and David did a great job directing it.
Yeah, I see it's 7F03. I was wondering what the first
that year recorded was the Three-Eyed Fish.
Oh right, yeah.
Which was a really good show, but it wasn't featuring Bart, and there was a discussion about which one would be best to air first. And since it was Bart, we did this one.
And the second one was the Hair Tonic show, I think.
Right,
which featured Homer. So.
Yeah, it's funny. At the time, Bart was clearly the big star, and you could either say Homer's the star now or it's an ensemble. But it was amazing the publicity this show was getting at that point.
Hey, did you notice that school nurse was putting tongue depressors back in the jar that she spilled on the floor? That was sort of an unacknowledged joke.
I think it was a gag we threw in the storyboard because we had a note from somebody saying, "What is she doing?"
So we're still having problems with pupil size. I noticed they're varying from scene to scene.
Yeah. It was one thing we're still working on, but.
I wish I had them for you.
Now this is something. The fact that the Simpsons in this season only have one television that has to be moved from upstairs to downstairs, because now I believe they have a TV in every room in the house.
Well, Fox finally loosened the purse strings.
I remember the Logic Police would be all over us early on, where we wanted a TV in Bart's room, and someone would say for a long time, "Oh, there's only one TV in the house," and we finally let that slide. Is Bart left-handed?
Yes.
Okay. Great sound effect.
Bart Simpson, I warned you.
This isn't her first appearance, but this is Marcia Wallace as Mrs. Krabappel, Bart's teacher, one of the more popular characters we have on this show.
Dr. J. Lauren Pryor.
Hey, Dr. J.
I think what we have on our hands.
And this is Harry doing Lauren Pryor, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He appeared in like about 3 or 4 episodes.
He's one of those season 1 people who was always holding us to get back in the show.
Dr. Pryor, I think John Vitti named him, and people always ask about the names on the show, and they come from all different sources, but he was Dr. Pryor because he pries into things. That's about the level of anecdote that goes with naming the Simpsons characters.
Well, yeah, the Simpsons are the Simpsons because they're simpletons.
Hey.
Oh, what? Now it can be told.
A lot of things are. It's only because the question comes up. A lot of things. People get their names for several reasons. Homer Simpson is Homer. He's your dad, but Homer Simpson's also the character in Day of the Locust.
Yep.
And they're simple people.
Oh, I wish it were that simple. As shameful and as emotionally.
Now the previous thing where Bart is like getting all excited, I purposely wanted to cut from different angles very quickly, just to give his anxiety the feeling of that everything's collapsing around him.
Maybe it would help him to be left back. It won't be so bad, Bart. No, I mean it. He can't hold me back. I swear I'm gonna do better. Look at my eyes. See the sincerity? See the conviction? See the fear?
The color of Bart's shirt seems a little off in this episode.
Past the 4th grade!
And if you don't, at least you'll be bigger than the other kids. Get off the bus and forever hold your peace, little dudes.
A lot of odd-looking kids.
Yeah, at the very beginning we thought it would be funny to have very odd-looking kids, and now background characters we try to make as generic as possible so they're not distracting. But there's some really freakish.
I think Wendell is pale because he initially was a kid that always threw up on the bus,
Right.
and so it still retained that coloring. He's a much lighter yellow than the rest.
Yeah, he was going off nauseous, I noticed in this.
I got held back in the 4th grade myself. Twice. Look at me, man. Now I drive the school bus.
Nice lean in.
Nice reaction. It's actually stolen from another episode, I think, that shot.
Repeat the 4th grade. The 4th grade. The 4th grade. The 4th grade.
The dream sequence time.
The topic is world literature. What was the pirate's name in Treasure Island? Bart Simpson?
Look, lady, I got a peptic ulcer, a wife hucking me for a new car, and I need a root. Will you quit?
Hi, this is Jim Brooks. I just got here.
Welcome aboard. We've been talking about the show, Jim, and about the move to Thursday night.
Okay, Sunday we did everything we could to stay on Sunday. It was the perfect family night, everything perfect, best spot in the world. All could have been ours if we stayed on Sunday, you know. And then they, you know, we felt like cannon fodder when they moved us against Cosby.
You know what's interesting about the move too, because this is a traditional network move. You have an established hit. They'll move the hip, up-and-coming, you know, new hit show against it, and the new show always fails. This was moving Miami Vice up against Dallas, moving Mork and Mindy up against All in the Family. It's always a bonehead move, and I think it's a tribute to The Simpsons that it didn't kill us, it merely hobbled us.
Well, what also really hurt was they were a little late in picking up the show, so that we only had the original 13 to air all summer. We kept airing them again and again, and people were saying that they were getting a little tired of the show, that they thought we had production problems, and since then we never have. We've always delivered plenty of episodes on time.
These things mean nothing to them? Perhaps another demonstration.
But I remember going against Cosby, and we did take a hit. I mean, we you know, I think we were a top 10 show on Sunday, weren't we?
We were number 3 at the peak.
Oh my God! Wow. Right, and then so we went way down, but which was still great for Fox.
Your sanctuary from the hurly-burly of modern life. Well, there's a desk under that junk over there. Oh, no, this won't do at all. We're going to have to clean up this room, and we'll clearly need a few ferns in here. No study area is complete without adequate plant life. No.
You know what I'm noticing about this is the fact that The Simpsons is one of the last shows that is fully painted on cells, including the backgrounds, which leads, you tell David, I mean, doesn't it lead to a thickness?
Well, we have a problem with what we call cell flares, where because of the thickness of the yellow causes a ring around it in certain close-ups. And sometimes we call retake after retake, and we just can't get rid of them. And but on the other hand, it's still, there's a quality about it that I still like about having the cells. It just really fits on The Simpsons for some reason.
That was I remember the early seasons, that was the number one problem, cell flare, and we see it scene after scene after scene, and we had to prioritize because we couldn't reshoot every scene that had it in it. So you do see it turn up, but what you probably see is a quarter of what was there originally.
One problem I've been told, since we're one of the last hand-painted shows now, is people who work in animation want to get into computer animation, and we're running out of people who can actually paint cells. We've gone from avant-garde to being like the last of the dinosaurs.
The fact that it wasn't me, I've never felt so alive. Right, Martin. Now, the big test is tomorrow, and I haven't even started. Who cares about some test? Life's too short for
When we we're doing this, we actually had a different model sheet for Martin after he goes sort of crazy for this scene here. Just so they kept, he's slightly different, his eyes are larger, his hair is a different design for this scene.
One interesting sidelight, the voice of Martin Prince is Russi Taylor, who also voices Minnie Mouse.
And her husband is Mickey Mouse. And
It's past your bedtime.
the husband
You can
is
draw a picture.
Yeah.
They got married?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
And especially,
I guess this is the road.
it's off the topic. This guy looks nothing like Mickey Mouse.
School tomorrow.
I heard Minnie Mouse was crazy.
Just need one more day to study, Lord. I need your help.
That's an old joke.
The last strike,
Oh, I know that too.
a teacher strike, a power failure.
I wanted to do that move so you could see that Lisa was listening to
I know it's asking a
what
lot,
Bart was saying.
but if anyone can do it, you can. Thanking you in
I
advance.
just like the way this came out. I thought it did a nice job. The shadow looked good. It worked out pretty well.
The tone feels different to me. I mean, the second season did have a very specific tone, I think.
Well, another, undertone was how the show was considered subversive, and the president was against this, and yet it's one of the few shows where you show a character praying and God answering his prayer with a snowstorm.
Wake up, Bart! Rise and shine!
I always say The Simpsons is not only religious, it's an Old Testament religious show. I mean, miracles happen constantly. God's vengeance is very cruel and completely out of proportion to the crimes committed.
On the topic of the president, too, this is about the time President Bush Sr. was ridiculing us, and, we made a lot of fun of him, never dreaming that his son would get into power. We'd all be in horrible trouble.
I met Barbara Bush at this thing where there was a receiving line right after she had criticized us, and for some reason it occurred to me that she thought it was funny too, that she blasted the show. This sort of dumb notion you have. And I did some kind of lighthearted remark, and she just looked at me like I was me.
Oh my gosh, he actually does say Cowabunga. I thought that was just a t-shirt. Well, I think that's the only time he's ever said it.
And we may have taken it from the shirt. It's like, oh, all right, I guess this is what Bart says.
Yeah.
It says tumble dry.
Together, and you owe him big. Right. They asked for a miracle and we got it. I gotta study, man.
Now, coming up is one of the hardest scenes that I had to do in the show, because it had to be snow day, it had to be the most amazing day possible, and I had to do this one long scene of just everything happening at once. And I'm happy it looks good and effortless, but I gotta tell you, it was just amazingly miserable to work on. So you time all this stuff and get all these characters working at the right time. There's also coming up the introduction of Mayor Quimby, but I forgot to put that he's in fact Mayor Diamond Joe Quimby. It just says Diamond Joe Quimby. So hopefully you figured it out.
It doesn't look effortless. It looks like somebody really sweated bullets to me, man.
Well, good. That was the idea.
We see your pain.
It's just Diamond Joe Quimby.
Early on, we thought people wouldn't recognize the mayor without that seal or a sash that said mayor on him.
Obviously, this is a parody of The Grinch. I figured, well, as long as they're snowing and singing, you may as well do Dahu Dori type situations.
It was 2 days before the show aired. I said, we should stick Herman in there, our one-armed guy, because he has no one to hold hands with. And I think Sam Simon was going, let's do it. And he was going to pay for some quickie animation literally days before the show aired, but it just didn't seem practical.
First Continental Congress.
It's very hard to make changes in the show once it's back in color. Any reanimation is very expensive.
We hold these truths to be self.
I like the color scheme in this, sort of starting from just keeping it black and white, but little bits kind of red, white, and blue, and then variations on blues and reds.
Creation, they derive rights inherent and inalienable. Hey, look, everybody. It's snowing. In the middle of July?
It's a miracle.
Fellas, I've invented something fun. The sled. Hey, look, everybody.
My favorite joke.
Writing his name.
We should do that more often. I like that muted color fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Did we do that in the? I think it's Bart was dreaming. He had to go to the bathroom, and that was last time I think we used that technique.
I think we did it in the bowling show, wasn't the bowling fantasy?
Right, that's the first time we tried that. And then I think they did Bart the Murderer, we did that as well.
Please turn in your exam, Bart.
Oh, snow seems to be gone.
Yeah, that muted color is like one of those Aztec gold techniques. It's lost to the age. Can't do it anymore.
This, of course, is just echoing what the same test composition is in the first act.
That's another F.
Oh no, I can't believe it.
This is also difficult, trying to make Bart cry and not making it too unpleasant to look at, so I don't know if I was successful. But hiding the face seemed to be the best thing to do in general.
I would think you'd be used to failing by now.
I thought it was moving. I thought it was a really good job.
Good.
I really tried this time. I really tried.
There.
This is as good as I can do.
There's a tendency when we call for crying in the script for the animation to come back with streams of tears springing off the face. So that's why I always say one tear.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like milk coming out of their heads.
For necessity to the French in 1754.
What?
Oh, you know 1754, the famous defeat of the French. Oh,
This is as much pure little boy as we
oh.
You just demonstrated.
ever had him, I think.
Yeah.
And due to the difficulty and relative.
That was a clever...
As opposed to the corporate logo he's become.
You mean I passed?
Just barely.
I passed!
Yeah, but you're stuck there for another 13 years, buddy.
I passed! All right! I passed! I got a D-! I passed!
I always think it's kind of a sad reflection on his intelligence that he studied really hard and he got a D-.
Yeah.
He really isn't that bright.
Kiss the teacher!
By the way, whenever you do a show, when The Simpsons does a show with snow in it or winter, people love it, like Mr. Plow. And you never see snow on television.
This belongs to God.
Well, very few shows you actually see a sense of seasons, you know. And it's the only show that I've seen is The Simpsons, where you showed summer and fall and winter.
Except they also have a desert and an ocean. It's very hard to figure quite where the weather's coming from.
The Pacific Northwest is nearby, and Mexico's nearby.
God, every one of these people is dead.
It's sad, isn't it?
Well, dead to me.
Actually, what's interesting, if you look at the animation credits frame by frame, you'll see people who are now, directors and directors on other shows, and it's pretty amazing. Looking like layout and background and cleanup even is like, oh, he's now directing The Simpsons or something else.